Hello, everybody. We are. Are you gonna do a libation? Like, are you gonna? There you go.
Well, there's like a drop left. I could pour some by my altar.
Yeah. We're about to get started, everybody.
I know my muertos are sick of me by now. Well, not really, because they hold me down, but you know.
Exactly.
My
son has been trying. I pick up my phone and I read, unable to install snowboard party. Your device does not have enough available storage to install this app, which means that Gibran has downloaded probably around 10 games today on my phone. And he knows my password. So I don't want to put my thumbprint. I don't want to put anything else, but what can I do? I feel like I'm stuck.
Wait, you're stuck?
Because, they use the phone. I don't mind them using the phone, especially if I'm really busy and working.
Yeah.
But downloading us shit is just driving me insane.
Yeah.
So. But I like, you remember bien bonita, mírame?
Oh, I mean, like always, though.
No. I feel like, the other machetera, Evelyn gifted me this lipstick.
Oh, what's the name?
I don't know. She knows. Here we go. Hey.
Hold on, Evelyn is always the third one to come through. You notice that?
No, but Evelyn comes through whenever we say
whenever we talk about her.
Right? Because I was just saying the other machetera gave me this lipstick.
It looks good.
And Bash asked what colors, and I said, I don't know. Evelyn knows, and then poof.
It is Always Red by Sephora.
Oh, that's my jam. That's been my jam for the past 10 years.
Yeah.
So, all right, folks. So we're all here together.
We can start. I'm just going to tweet out links and start watch parties, mientras,
So for the 3 people that are watching right now, start a watch party. Let's get this started.
Hi, y'all. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. And it feels like today is like another week. I feel like today has been a week in one day.
Yeah, I feel like there was no weekend.
No, I feel like Tuesday has been a Monday through Friday situation.
Yeah.
And that my work hours, I feel like I worked each 30 seconds counted for like 8 minutes.
Wow.
I know.
It's been rough. I feel like it's been a rough month.
You think? And tomorrow, and I don't know. I'm just like.
Oh, definitely. It's been a lot going on in the world.
There's been a lot going on in the world.
There's been a lot going on.
Magic.
Facebook streets. I'm excited to get into this conversation. What y'all drinking? Clink, clink.
I'm trying to share this. I my usual abuelo. Well, the label came off because it's just been going back and forth to my fridge and my nightstand.
Start watch party. There we go. All right. So I started the watch party.
Okay.
So we have a lot of stuff that we want to talk about, and we have folks that are viewing right now. So also, if you want to ask questions, please put them on the side on the comments so we can see them. And so if you have any questions or any thoughts, I feel like Caña Negra we have been getting like rocks, hail, some people throwing flowers at us, but we've been getting a lot of mix of things. We've been getting a lot of poop. If people could throw the poop emojis at us, they would.
Yeah.
And then some folks have been throwing us like flowers and hearts, and we also want to get thrown some money at us too.
I always prefer the money,
If you're gonna throw something.
Exactly. So put your comments on the side, and I can screen share too. So if you all need me to pull up anything, just let me know.
Okay.
Because we could pull up some comments here. We also want to get through some money at us too.
And let's take it back to the videotape, right? So what exactly, because we had one specific post.
I'll pull it up.
That was, people had a lot to say. And it was shared over 100 times.
Yes. And we don't know everything that was shared with it, the commentaries, because we just, we have to make it an income and live, so we can read all the shares, but we want to, sometimes I've sat downstairs reading these posts sometimes and my eyes roll, and then sometimes I do and I get really aggravated. But I'm going to pull up the post in a second so that people can see it.
I read a few of the people that forwarded it. Clearly it touched a nerve for a lot of people, and I think that
punctured.
So, and that's putting it gently and mildly, but like really being able to get this opportunity to clarify and also expand, I think is really helpful. So if any of you have any additional questions, you have comments, we with the shits today. We got time.
Oh, so yeah.
You want to come with it?
I want all the smoke. I want it.
Bring it.
I need it.
I almost feel comfortable to write the people that wrote in and be like, oh, y'all want smoke? Come through right now.
No, for real. Pull up. We got the rum on deck. I put blush on. I put blush on for like the first time in like months, and I didn't even recognize myself. I'm like,
So here is the post of all posts. Right? So it says, you are not white passing, you are white. Then, should I read the side too?
Yeah, go ahead. Read it all.
All right. There are a dozen of terminologies denoting race, color, and ancestry within the social hierarchy of Latin America. The pigmentocracy left by the white Europeans who place themselves as the pinnacle of the classed social order. White passing is not among any of those terms. Since before the 1500s, Europeans called themselves what they were, white, and did so 100 years before the U.S. was even formed. Let us be clear. U.S. white is not the only white there is, just as U.S. black is not the only black there is. We do not use the term black passing. Why do you all continue to use the nonsensical term white passing then? There's literally no translation for it in Spanish. You're either blanco or you're not. Furthermore, even if you do not see yourself as blanco, rest assured many Black and indigenous folks in your home countries were calling you blanco with no debate or question. How you view yourself versus how white pathological society views you versus how Black and indigenous people view you versus how the streets view you often may not align to your expectations. Sit with that. And that got us like a whole leap of, you'll see it right here. 108 like little emoji things, 77 comments, 163 shares. Yeah. But we've had over 9,865 engagements, which means people like clicking on it and sometimes re-clicking on it.
Right.
Over 26,000 people actually read this. That's not counting Instagram. That's not counting personal messages. That's not counting emails. That is just like really bananas.
Yeah.
And I leave you with Christina if you are unclear about what we're talking about around white Latinos that are outraged.
Hilarious.
Yeah. Because I shared it also on my personal Instagram, and then people were asking me, so then what should I call myself? Girl, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But I know that white passing is not a thing in the context of Latin Americans and Latinos as people are using it. That's what we're talking about. Like people always want to jump on and derail the train to, well, what about this? We're not talking about that right now.
But let's be clear, the trains in Latin America were not built by them.
Right. And that's the first thing too. Like, Q in vogue right now, and you were like, ooh, my first mistake was you didn't read the caption, right? So, yes. Right? So remembering that, like, that was part of the first challenge, that lots of people did not read the caption. And so
it was clear, it was very clear.
Immediately went to, but in the US, when the caption clearly mentioned who was centered in this post. So that was the first thing.
You know what was shocking to me? The amount of Black folk that jumped on this post too. And very disturbing. And defending. And defending.
Yes.
Right? Defending whiteness and making excuses for why
folks
should not identify why we are attacked. First of all, one woman specifically said that the post was bullshit and we were attacking. And that was a Panamanian woman, Dash.
Yes.
I banned her from the page because I'm like, girl, look, I don't have time for this or you or your bullshit, because what we're not going to do is defend whiteness in this space, in our community, because this is not what we're here for. And I think also the main thing people were getting from it was that people are equating whiteness with Anglo-US whiteness, which we addressed in the original post. So why are you even bringing that here? You know, already, like, the argument is over because you don't even know what you're talking about. You don't even know what context we're talking about.
And also, why are you defending whiteness regardless of where you're from?
Period.
That's the other side.
Period.
Right? Like, this particular person that got banned or blocked or whatever, right? They were also talking about how whiteness was beyond, being white was beyond being white. That being white was also subscribing to whiteness.
No, boo. I'm sorry. No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No.
And then you have the people who are like, well, I don't feel white. I'm like, what does that mean? What that mean?
That you don't feel it. You don't.
And just because you don't feel it doesn't mean that you're not it.
Right? I don't feel broke, but I am.
I'm not white.
I don't feel like a broke bitch, but I am. So, like, come on. Hello?
Right. There was definitely a big sense of, no, but my people are. And my thing is, I think that we need to take it back, which we talk quite a bit about in our workshops. So ask us, send us a DM if you want to get more information about that. But this idea that somehow people seem to consistently, intentionally conflate race and ethnicity. So, like, I can't be white because I'm Mexican.
Or nationality, right?
Right, because I am Bolivian. I can't be white because I'm Jamaican. Like, let's break it down so that it can forevermore be broke.
So,
vamos a romper todo ahora.
Sí, vamos a romper.
Now I feel like I need to
it's enough because and it's also disingenuous and dishonest, because in your country people were calling you blanco. In my country, in whatever country I go to, I'm negra. Period.
Exactly. So I think one of the things that we have to do is really define what ethnicity is, because folks have it confused.
Yes.
Right? Especially white folks. And a lot of folks from Latin America. Let's be clear that Latin America historically has done a really good job at demystifying race and hiding it, brushing it under the rug, but making sure that the Black folks can still be stepped on.
Absolutely.
You know, and indigenous folks be stepped on comfortably outside of the rug, and then white folks are inside the rug having a good old party. And it's under the thing that todos somos una raza, right? This cosmic race.
The monocultural mestizaje.
Cultural mestizaje, right? And mestizo is that cosmic race that I have to tell people, you don't exist. If you're a cosmic race, you just don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
Like, stick with Walter Mercado, go under his thing.
His white ass.
Exactly. And let's see where that leads you, right?
So, the definition on dictionary.com of ethnicity.
Yes.
Is fact, it's a noun, the fact or state of being to a social group that has a common national or cultural tradition. And the thing is, a friend of mine, Kimberly Lyle, on Facebook said that Latino or Latinx at this point, or really never, has ever even been an ethnicity. It's more of a geocultural. And for me, it's geographical because you're naming a place, right? Because even within one country, you have different ethnicities. You're not going to tell me that my coastal Caribbean descendant black ass Panamanianness is the same as a Kuna Indian or a Kuna indigenous person, because Indian can be used as a slur in certain spaces. I don't use it as that, but just to be conscious. But a Kuna indigenous person living in their autonomous region, you can't tell me we're the same ethnicity. It's not happening. And some indigenous people don't even speak Spanish. So then what is it then?
Correct. And when you talk about Spanish, right? The region is not just English and Spanish. So even within the whole region, and somebody said that we don't know anything about Brazil, remember?
Yeah.
Ethnic politics, racial politics in Brazil. Because outside of being black, we're also ignorant, right? That was the feedback that we kind of like received. But so if you have Brazil, and Brazil, if you know your geography, which we know really, really well, is the largest country in the whole region, not just in South America, in the whole region, right? So if you have the largest country in the whole region, which also has a larger percentage of black people in the region, we have to start thinking differently about how we look at language and ethnicity. Right? And blackness too, because they have a very large percentage of black people. So yeah, we understand racial politics because we're also black. And being black in Latin America, we understand that we exist in every single country, and every single country fucks us over.
Yeah, pretty much. Period, boo.
Right? Period. So for the folks that don't think that we know anything from Brazil, think again. And I hope they're listening in, and I hope they're brave enough to like post something.
No, they will never.
Of course they wouldn't.
For those of you, I want to just. Oh, here we go. This is trippy. Afro-resistance. Afro-resistance is made up of Black Brazilian women, as well as Black Panamanian women, as well as Black Colombian women. And I was just singing your praises, Genevieve, who's one of the co-founders of Afro-Resistance, that you and Proyecto Afro-Latino are the only two organizations that I have seen within my 10 plus years of doing this, in this work, in the context of the US, that actually get to the core of what we need to be talking about. You actually have a panel
of Black people. Which is right. Like, I think that it's not, and that's another thing too, that I think that centering Black people is a unique thing that we are not doing even in Afro whatever spaces, right? Yeah. So that also is a unique and special thing doing. That centering Black people is like, what? And then when you get Black people who come on and defend whiteness and white people, the fuck is that?
Because folks still really believe, and when we do these trainings, right? Especially when it's not only Latino folk, and I have like people from multiple races, I put all the races up, right? And of course I get the odd person that says, what about the human race?
Oh Lord,
what about it?
And my response is always like, that's just a mechanism to not deal with your race, your racism, and how you see people.
They never say that when they're in blackface, or when they're saying ese negrito or ese negrita, or when they're denying us resources. They never say, what about the human race then? No. When they're saying anti-Black shit. Where are you? Where are you?
It's only how they see people, right. how they see us. They see us as humans. Somebody said after Trayvon Martin, an ex-friend of mine said, because she was ex right there, that I wouldn't be so focused on race if everybody was purple. Well, this wouldn't be happening if everybody was purple. And this wasn't a white person. This was a South Asian woman.
Because we're talking about white supremacist pathology. So like your purple antidote, where does that fit in here, Karen?
Exactly.
My mom say all the time, la gente habla porque tiene boca. Like people just speak to just be like, and I think that's another thing that comes up for me in these kind of conversations is the idea that people seem to be very resistant to learning, right? Like learning is not a destination, it is a journey. If you are constantly willing to learn, then you should be ready to recognize that what you may have learned may not be correct. And people need to be corrected, but people will argue and fight to be wrong, and particularly, you okay, Dash? Oh wait, you okay?
I just have to plug in my charger. Sorry.
I like your pants.
It's my pajama pants that you got for me.
It's like really thinking about how we can continue to support each other in the learning, which is why I often like to hear the foolishness that people have to say, because I'm always like, where are we in terms of like the learning? And sometimes that's when you're like, this is why we can't get shit done.
Yeah.
They have a whole bunch of intelligent tontos in the world that have all of the language and yet refuse to use it in a way that is going to further their own learning and much less the learning of others. And to your point, Dash, I just wanted to recognize that, like, I'm looking at softschools.com and they had a point about nationality versus ethnicity. It says it's easy to confuse nationality and ethnicity, but there's a major difference. Nationality, noun, is the relationship between a person and the political state to which he belongs or is affiliated.
Mm-hmm.
Ethnicity is the identification of a person with a particular racial, cultural, or religious group. And so just for the people that are out there that are listening and watching, this is a really important designation to really have, because that's one of the things that is coming up with people where they are saying that they can't be white because of their like space of nationality.
Correct. One does not have to correlate with the other.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And now, right? So ethnicity is basically any social identity that you subscribe to.
Mm-hmm.
And it can also shift and, it's malleable, right? So yes, while over here, right, in the United States, my ethnicity, one of them could be I'm Panamanian, right? That doesn't mean that in Panama, we're all the same.
Right.
That's what that looks like. My social identity could be, I roll with Black women that are about liberation and have an understanding of U.S. foreign policy, right? I roll with those type of women. So I could consider that my ethnicity at that time, because I'm rolling with this group of women and we're all like, yes, we're going to like tear this shit down. But then I go into a restaurant and it shifts, because I might not tell people like, oh, what are you? I'm a woman.
A Black woman.
They can see obviously that I am Black. So if you have to say like, oh, I'm a Black Latina woman in a situation, that tells me that you could be mixed race, which is cool. But if you have to identify first that you're Black and you're visibly, and people are like, really? Yeah. That tells me that maybe Afro-descendant is a term for you and you can stick to that, but then also understand that there are people that have this specific lived experience that are actually Black. And I think that's also a distinction that we have to make, that there's Afro-Latinidad that doesn't always mean that you're Black.
Right. And that's what AOC was saying, that she got the backlash.
Yes. Has she responded to that?
Well, but okay, so I'm reading what she said, because what Genevieve was just referring to was how people are racialized. And I really like that term, racialized.
Yeah.
And how society racializes people. All three of us here are Black wherever we go. There's no debate. There's no discussion. We Black. That's it. Other people, it may take an extra step or maybe an extra glance or maybe, I don't know. And they may not be racialized as Black. or they may be racialized as Black in some places and not others. And I think multiple things can be true at once. And I also don't think that you being mixed and negates your membership to Blackness, you know, because people will be like, oh, I'm mixed, not Black. I'm like, ain't that the same thing? Like, you know, and of course that is personal, you know, but also keep in mind the personal is political. And the term Afro-descendant and all these different terms, Afro-Colombian, Afro-Peruvian, Afro-Panamanian, etc., it's a political terminology. It's a way to get counted. It's a way to be visible. It's a way to get political power and be quantified on the census. It is a way to affirm that we are here and we've been here. But AOC's quote was her via Twitter from Tom Elliott. Latinos are Black. We have conversations around colorism, and we have conversations around the African and indigenous roots from which we come and how that's affected in systems of power. Let me read her whole quote because I didn't like his paraphrasing. She said, I always say Latinos are Black. We run an entire racial spectrum, so we have to have conversations around colorism. And we have to have conversations around the African and indigenous roots from which we come and how that's reflected in systems of power, wealth inequality, and frankly, our political system. I actually don't think there's certain inaccuracies, but what she's speaking to,
and there are certain accuracies.
What it is.
Correct.
Not all Latinos are Black. That was her first mistake.
Right.
Messed it. I think the wording was a little bit messed up there, you know. But yeah, what she's speaking to is that these different ancestries affect how we have access to wealth and power and political power, etc. So I think she just tripped up on the wording there.
I feel like what's missing with her, so there's two things that come up for me with AOC, right, regarding this specific topic, is that a few months ago, she, on an interview, she said clearly, just because I have Black ancestry doesn't mean that I'm Black. Mm-hmm. And she also said, just because I have indigenous ancestry doesn't mean that I'm that. Mm-hmm. She never said, just because I have white ancestry doesn't mean that I'm that, right? So exclusion of key things is also very anti-Black, anti-indigenous, because that means that you're embracing this piece of this whiteness by not naming it too, and solidifying for your listeners and your viewers, okay, if I'm not this, just because I'm this, I'm not this, just because I'm this, I'm not this. She never said that about whiteness. And that's why I was like, all right, here's somebody upholding whiteness, right? Yeah. So that's one. Mm-hmm. Then to flip this around 360 around, and say that, all Latinos are Black, right? And that we've been talking about race and colorism. No, maybe we have. Maybe some Latinos have. Most white Latinos don't speak about that. Those are not conversations that enter households. Those are not conversations that are had in Latin America within white households. Not that I have ever lived in a white household, but I've never heard this language being used by white people around their whiteness. So there's this privilege of just being this human race that doesn't have to think. Mm-hmm. And that fact that the Evelyn shared in our last training, anti-Blackness within the Latino community, and I'll put a link later. Evelyn shared around, what's the age that people realize that they're white?
30 something.
I don't think that's very different in Latin America either.
No, not at all, because they can censor themselves and everyone else is othered. And I think that that's really the problem, that like her, to your point, Genevieve, about her specific selection of language. Because while she didn't say not white, she didn't say I'm white, she also didn't refute it, right?
Correct.
I think that that's really the point that becomes very important, to be able to recognize that Black people globally, you Black. Right? In fact, the other side of the study, which is that Black people, children tend to know they're Black as young as like the age of 2 or 3, right? So just the idea that you get to censor yourself, why would you ever have those? Why, right? They're not having those conversations. I've been in many non-Black households where my people are from in Guatemala, and I can say that I've never heard it. In fact, it's always to talk about other people.
Mm-hmm.
So esos negros hacen esto, those Blacks do this, or they do that, but it's never in terms of this reflective piece,
Mm-hmm.
the way that Black people have to constantly reflect on their actions, or where it's safe, or where their children can go comfortably, or all the other things. So I feel like that's bullshit. And I get that maybe there's a desire to be more inclusive, but this is not the way, right? Because now we have language that can actively be utilized to be able to share what it is that we mean. But I think that's another thing too, that language has also been co-opted and used to make people feel like they're on the right side of history while still not encouraging them to do anything with that language. So they have all the right terminology, but they still racist.
Yeah, correct. They're not assuming responsibility in any way, shape, or form. They want to be absolved of the responsibility by saying, I'm not white, I'm Latino. And so what that means to me?
Like US white people are the only atrocious, like the only ones that have committed atrocities globally. Yeah. Like your people did it too.
Exactly. And the thing, like you said, in naming, I think naming is extremely important. Extremely important, because as y'all have said over and over, you can't heal what you don't reveal. We can't address the problem if you're not naming what the problem is. If I have a broken arm and I go to the hospital and I'm like, oh, something's wrong, the doctor asks me where it hurts. Am I gonna say my foot? No, my arm is broken. So if we're talking about white people, we're gonna say white. We're not gonna say white passing. We're not gonna say white privilege holding. We're not gonna say white adjacent. We're not gonna say people who benefit from white privilege.
Like white, 2% white. Listen to our first podcast where we talk about this.
Yes.
2% white. No, if you white, you white. And what y'all need to do is heal whiteness. Because if y'all worked on healing white people and whiteness, then you wouldn't be trying to run away from it, because that's who the fuck you are. Like, that's just what it is. That they always afraid to be white because you don't want to be associated with the challenges of being white. But then you certainly don't want to be associated with you get to bypass the challenges of being Black. So what the fuck? You don't get to have it both ways. And I think that that's part of the really frustrating piece.
Exactly.
That kind of like do a little dance around absolving responsibility. Like, nah, you got privilege, you got responsibility.
And
all the not the burden. All the benefits of whiteness, not the burden, not the responsibility. No, you coming in this room and you're gonna sit and listen right now.
And you know what? The worst part is that the folks that are fighting the hardest are the ones that are fully ingrained in white society.
Yes.
Fully, you know, like folks that are working at banks and are never questioned. Folks that, you know, like folks that change their names. Folks that don't like accents. But then they realize, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not really like them. I'm going back over here, right? Like folks that are like going go out with their white colleagues to like a regular bar or club, and then one salsa song comes on and they're the salsa queen or king.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Like
that's right.
White ass.
And that's where a lot of folks Latinidad comes in, because we have dealt with them before. And that's the thing. We in multiple countries have dealt with them. I have been called negra de mierda, negra del carajo. I've even been called nigger in Latin America in several countries. And in Tunisia too. Right? I've been called all those things. And I've also been called that, you know where? Right here in the Bronx. And you know where I have been called that? By who? By Latino folk.
Yeah. They refuse. This is what Evelyn said, you and Evelyn, that these white Latinos refuse to locate themselves in whiteness. And I love that terminology. I love it, because in all of our intersecting identities, we're always quick to locate Blackness. We're always quick to say el negro, la negra. But we never turn it around and be like el blanco, la blanca. You know, we say it amongst ourselves, right? But also within these white spaces, they're always pushing it off. No, that's not me. No, I'm Mexican. No, I'm Ecuadorian. No, like just passing the buck. And it's like, we've been calling you blanco your entire life, right?
Or maybe they don't know.
Right. And that being Ecuadorian, for example, or Peruvian does not stop you from being racist.
Exactly.
Right? So it's like, so there's this space where you acting like your home country is like this idyllic space where people feel safe all the time, when in reality, that shit is not true. So even if you say you're not white, you're Peruvian, but you know that your Peruvian people are assholes to black people, then you still ain't shit.
But also on top of that, the leadership in our countries are white. You turn on Telemundo Univision and you're really gonna ask me what a white Latino is? You're really gonna ask that of me when you can just turn on any of these stations and you look like you watching a novella in Germany, or look like you're watching a news special in Switzerland, or what's the other one? Sweden?
Wait, I'm about to share my screen again. How do I do this? Here we go.
Yeah, you said Sweden.
I'm like, what is Suecia in English? Okay. I'm like, what is that? What is that country with the blonde people?
And they act like white people are not extra valued in Latin America. Like,
so let's take a look. Share screen.
They wanna tapar el sol con un dedo. Like, really, you gonna piss on my leg and tell me it's raining?
All right, so folks, look at this. This is Telemundo's executive, right? Let's take a look. Oh, interesting. More interesting. That's it.
They white.
But no,
they're white passing.
They're always going to be like, no, he's tan. He got black hair. Right. If Snooki can be white, they white, okay? Because what they try to tell you is that, these people are mixed. And most of these white people in the U.S. are mixed too. But they still white, and?
Exactly.
What are you telling me right now?
Oh, I was gonna look. I'm gonna put so we have a comment, right?
Right.
And this comment is coming from a watch party.
Hey, which one that I walked away from?
I was in a power, privilege, and oppression class with a Cubana who identified as white. Then was offended when the white students didn't ask her about blackness and brownness. Because she's also an authority since she's Cuban.
Yeah.
She's Cuban.
Meanwhile, she doesn't have a black Cuban friend. She's never been to know what. Like, come on. They want to play all sides of the fence, but never take responsibility. You want to be here. You want to be there. You want to be the cool one. You want to. You want to.
No, it's really exhausting. I'm about to put the event that we are hosting.
But how you gonna be mad? Because you know what? There's also people that need to be like called out and called in. So all you white people that are out here becoming experts on blackness, y'all fucking dead wrong.
You need to sit the fuck down. You need to sit down
and figure out what the fuck you're doing to elevate black people. Because y'all, you're wrong.
Dead wrong.
Brittany says, can you repeat that? What are we repeating, Brittany?
Yeah. Shout out to you, Brittany.
To sit the fuck down? White people?
No.
Because I sit there all at night.
Brittany will type it up again.
Thank you, Brittany.
But speaking of white people speaking out of turn, I just read this atrocious New York Times opinion piece by Bruno Carvalho, a white Brazilian. Well, John Viab already saw my rant on Twitter because I just felt the rage bubbling from my heart chakra. And
just like
bubbling up and out because he said that it's time for Latinos. Wait, hold on. Let me get it because I want to quote it correctly. I want to quote it correctly.
Quote it right. Did Brittany update her comment?
Yes.
All right.
So the comment was about the Cuban. Okay, so the comment that we got was from one of the viewers on the watch party. Woo! I was in a power, privilege, and oppression class with a Cubana who identified as white. Then was offended when the white students didn't ask her about blackness and brownness. So just because by virtue of being Cuban and being from Latin America, she feels that she's an authority on the subject, which has happened to me too, because folks don't always know that I'm Latina, right? Mm-hmm. Folks usually assume that I'm just Black, whatever that means in their minds, usually African American. Mm-hmm. With all the stereotypes and the socialization that comes with being African American that we're taught in our home country. I learned those things too. Mm-hmm. And then I had to undo it in my political development. So we were talking, and then she raised up her hand, and she wasn't a white Latina, she was a mixed race Latina. And she said that racism doesn't exist in her home country. Racism is something that she learned here.
Oh, you told me that story.
By Black people. Black people here were the most racist people towards her when she first got here. And then she said that she was Panamanian, because then I raised my hand. And I was just smiling and laughing, because I was like, in Panama, the same thing happens. You did not learn about racism here. You learned about racism in Panama, just that you never had to deal with us over there because we were the other people.
Right.
And you were part of the elite, or not. You might have not been, right? But you weren't indigenous. You're not indigenous or Black, but you didn't learn about racism here. Stop lying. And people then started clapping. And I was like, so if I wasn't there, folks would
have believed her and just They would have just been like,
let her rock. They would have let her rock. Like how they Latin American professors rock in these Black spaces. And I'm sick of it.
And you know what else exists? Because let's be clear, you know what else exists? White Latino tears.
Hey. Oh. You can mix them in with your rum. You can mix them in with the rum.
No, they're too bitter, Ev. Don't even. They're too bitter. You can't mix that with nothing. Soon as it falls to the earth, it makes the earth infertile. You can't do nothing with those white Latin Americans.
Right.
You can't do shit with them. Let me read the white man speaking out of turn. He's a professor at Harvard at the AfroLatin Studies.
You know, we've spoken about this before, but I really think that we need to turn the tide. Like the same way that it's like they want to other us and we kind of do that to ourselves by Afro whatever. It's like white whatever. So you're white Peruvian, you're white whatever. Like this
Euro, right?
Euro, boom, right? So you are Euro wherever you're from. So Euro is
Euro Brazilian.
Euro Brazilian. All right, like
that. And I went on a rampage because I just have the context of OG macheteras like Miriam Miranda in Honduras that have been illegally imprisoned, violently abused, assassination attempts on their lives, Black women targeted, social leaders killed in front of their families in their homes, and he has the gall to sit his dusty ass down at his stupid ass desk and write, Latin America is ready for its Black Lives Reckoning. Excuse me, sir? What was that? What did you say? You said that Latin America is ready for its Black Lives Reckoning after that number of Black Colombians are targeted and hunted for defending their ancestral lands. You telling us that Black Lives Matter, that Latin Americans are late to the Black Lives Matter train? When you had Colombians putting Ferguson equals Buenaventura and Black Lives Matter and solidarity with all the marches and all the happenings in the US, and you're gonna sit there and open your dusty white mouth to tell us anything about anything? Really? In your air-conditioned office? In your air-conditioned office? And me as a Black woman, I get smoked just for existing, just for going outside my house.
Right.
But I also realize that I have a privilege of being in a secure high-rise building. I'm not getting beat. I'm not getting targeted in the way that most, or actually all of these Black social leaders are being targeted and murdered in the streets. And so if I'm even a little bit distant from it, which I'm actually not, because it could be getting killed in the streets too, right? An officer has a bad day, that could be my corpse there too, right along with them. And this white man has the gall to sit and type with his little troll fingers and published the New York Times about some black lives? What lives are you talking about, white man? Who are you talking to, sir?
Nobody. That's the problem.
No, he's talking to white people, because that's the problem too, that they give each other credit for minutia. I bet you his people's is like, oh my God, you got put in the New York Times, you got put in the New York Times in the United States, and oh my goodness, yes, it's so good. Meanwhile, you treat your people like trash.
No. His white friends are not saying that. Well, they might be saying that, and they're saying, no, then he's saying, yeah, but all these black people are upset with me now. Right. And then the white friends are saying, they always complain about something.
They get over it.
They don't understand.
It's a good.
They don't understand what the issue is. They don't understand that they're about to get hit with war. They don't understand that. You know, when we built that library in the 50s, remember that? That was the first time that books got to those communities.
Right. They should be so grateful.
And then they were complaining that, then 10 years later, they were complaining that there were all white characters in the books. Like, you can't do nothing for these black people.
Right.
So congratulations. Keep your head up, and you keep on writing about black people.
You keep writing about it without having to actually do anything about it. And yay, right?
You can write but not engage. You can write but not have any type of experience or any type of praxis or any type of lived experience in the subject, because you have Wi-Fi access, and he was hired as tenure as soon as he was hired at Harvard. Ain't got no credentials.
Talking about Harvard.
Everybody's black lives. Speak about your white life. Why don't you speak about that? Let's discuss that. Tell me about that. But you won't do it. You over here commenting on black what? Black what exactly? Black what?
And the response amongst white people globally is so consistent, right? We could be like, oh, arrest the cops that killed Breonna Taylor in America, right? Or the United States. And it'll be like, oh, actually, we tossed in 20 million to some random organization.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing, right? In Latin America. Oh, we, stop killing people, right? In the campos. And it'll be like, oh, how about I write an article for the New York Times?
Uh-huh.
All right. I'm about to share my screen again with some, stuff that we know, but our viewers might not. And it's really good for you all to get, information about this. So this is the AfroLatin American Research Institute at the Hutchins Center. This is Harvard University. We all know, what these institutes did. So here are the staff. Alejandro de la Fuente. Let's open up his picture and see. Oh, look at him. But he's a historian of Latin American and Caribbean who specializes in comparative slave and race relations.
He's a white Cuban man.
Right.
His name I've heard his name all over the place. A lot of friends of mine know him, have worked with him. And I'm laughing because, we love receipts here. And John Pierre was like, let me just take the liberty to just show you.
Here is Bruno. Bruno works on cities as lived and imagined spaces. He studies relationships between cultural practices and urbanization. He has, I'm going to go down because this is interesting to my Afro-Brazilian folk out here. Carvalho has written numerous articles and essays. He's the author of the award-winning Porous City, A Cultural History of Rio de Janeiro, published in Brazil. So I'm going to pause on Mr. Bruno.
So let me share a quote, because I pulled this quote out to share with a couple friends.
All right.
It was just outrageous what he wrote. He wrote, the sense of moral outrage is far less widespread in Latin America. While the war on drugs is a clear driver of violence in Latin America, it is harder to speak of a causal relationship between racism and police brutality. Many officers are themselves Black and brown. So
there we go.
He's Brazilian. Most of them cops are white. That's number one. Number two, you don't have to be a white person to perpetuate anti-Blackness. Number three, if they're being trained in anti-Black methods and to be suspicious of Black people, we have a racist and anti-Black problem. I don't care if they're Wesley Snipes. cops.
So our tour of Harvard continues. Thank you, Dash.
Virtual
tour.
James Almeida.
Wow.
Look at James. Oh, but he's not white though, right? Because his last name.
White passing.
His research examines the relationship between imperial powers in the first century of the Atlantic slave trade and the implications for international law. Move down forward, right? He focuses on social identification and categories of difference, especially race and ethnicity. All right, that is Mr. James. Then we go on to read, who doesn't have a bio because his face says it all, I guess. I don't know.
I wasn't. Well, okay. So I have his book. He is old, I guess, not old, but like he's been in this arena for a long time.
OG.
Yeah, I know him too. But
yeah, right. Yeah, we all know him, right?
And the thing is, we have had to read these people's books because we haven't been given a chance to do this research. Let's be clear. Harvard doesn't give scholarships just like that anymore. Well, it didn't. Now it's opening up to only specifically this, but it doesn't. Harvard historically doesn't give us scholarships for us to do that. And who can afford to be going and spending a semester, 2 semesters abroad with no income? Like that's just not us. Most of us just can't do that.
Well, they did do an Afro-American course. How much was it, John Viev? It was $200 or something like $100. I don't remember, but it was geared towards Black Latin Americans. I'm like, what Black Latin American has $200 to pay for your raggedy ass course when they have to eat?
Exactly. Then we have the only person that seems to be Black. Well, there's
a person with locks.
Yeah, there's 2 people that seem to be Black. One is Eduarda Araujo. She studies Afro-Brazil, but she's a student. She's a PhD candidate. Studies Afro-Brazilian history, using race and class as units of analysis. Okay.
And she needs all the support she can be in that space.
Right.
Probably. I'm going to skip Jonathan because we already covered enough. Let's see what Vincent Brown and how he's handling this. Vincent Brown is Charles Warren Professor of American History and Professor of African and African American Studies. So he has written about Atlantic history, African diaspora studies, and the history of slavery in the Americas. Okay, great. But it doesn't tell us, I think he's just a faculty, I think he's a faculty to the center because he doesn't have a distinct title within the center. It's just, he works for the Center for Government and International Studies. So he might be like a collaborator or a contributor. I do not want to take away anything from Professor Vincent Brown, but he doesn't have a title like the other folks have.
Which is
and then that's it. So there's 3 women. Oh, and then you have somebody that's interested. So you have Odalis Garcia Gorla. All right, Odalis, let's see. Odalis is interested in looking at the ways in which Afro-Latino spirituality have been mainstreamed and disseminated through popular culture through different mediums, whether in salsa, music, TV, film. So in order to be affiliated with this institution, you can be white and you can be interested in Afro-Latino stuff. I don't know. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm actually getting upset.
Yeah, no, I was upset when I read that opinion piece because in just thinking of Black people being murdered in front of their families in their house, attacked, imprisoned, beat, and this motherfucker has the nerve to say that Black Latin Americans are late to the party. Excuse me, sir?
Absolutely. And Brittany here has a comment. We have to stop letting white people tell Black history. Yes. And why
they want me to be fired? I'm here.
And we have another comment from a watch party from Issa. She says, what an obsession these white people have with Black people. Why don't they study themselves? Because then they will have to be accountable.
Right. Write your article on white Latinidad. do that. Do it.
No, because they're not even gonna do that because they just like Latinidad, period. They center themselves. So anything that we do is othered. So it's like Afro, Black, center, like it's extra, it's outside of the norm.
It's funny because when I was in Colombia, when I started my docuseries, this was about like 9 years ago, and I was interviewing Black Colombians who identified as such. They identified as negro, they identified as Afro, they ain't never been to the States to learn that they were Black, okay? And so I was interviewing one, Cristian, I remember, and he said that in Colombia, it's always el negro, el indio. He's like, it's never el blanco. You never say el blanco. You never say it. And I commented that that's true. And the thing is, in Cuba, they do say blanco or white, which is a little bit peculiar compared to other places because they do say blanco a bit more. However, they say it way less than mulatto, jabao, and negro. They say it way less than that. So, I mean, they do say it, but it's like you said, the standard is white or the standard is Euro. And so they don't really have to name themselves. And so they didn't have to name themselves in their country. So when, they're not ever going to name themselves. And so when we name them, they get pissed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also that, like, I think Cuba might be one of the few places in which white is just as a statement of fact, not like, ooh, white, Yeah. That also matters too, right? Mm-hmm. Then there might be a little bit of like, oh, white, but it's like, that's a white. Like,
yeah. Like,
that's a blue wall. That's a white, like whatever, right?
Yeah, descriptor.
When it is a descriptor, it's used as like aspirational, which is a much different type of thing. Also, like, ooh, they're white, like lucky, So the association with whiteness is also.
But I think both happen in Cuba because it is a descriptor, and people use these words as descriptors, right? But also, I remember my nail tech. She I brought like some bundles, and so I gave, I gave her some, and she clipped it right in, like right then, and they were like, "No te hace la blancona," okay, because she was like, "Oh, hey,
flip."
And so they were like, "No te hace la blancona," and then I went to a drag show, and it was a Black drag artist, and she was fancy, made up, beautiful, everything beautiful. And the MC was saying, "Oh, you're the whitest white woman ever. You're la blancona," basically saying that because she's beautiful, she's white, and she was clearly not, But they were conveying that she was high class, that she was honorable, she was protected, and so you're the whitest woman in the land, and that's what they were. That was what the statement was, and so yeah, to your point, definitely like that. That's something to aspire to, but also on the other hand, Cuba they just do use white as a descriptor, to be like, oh, the white one over there.
So, I was gonna share it again, not that Harvard one because there's so many. University of Texas, the AfroLatin Studies there.
Oh, shout out to David. I think he's watching. He actually was accepted to the AfroLatin Institute's program or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of folks that were in there. I remember that there was an article that came out right when that came out. I can't remember what country she was from though. Maybe Venezuela, but it was a Black woman that wrote and called them out publicly because most of the faculty were white, and there were around 3 African Americans in the whole faculty. Then you have women like myself that's also in academia, and you might not believe that, but I'm in academia, and you might not believe that. No, you know why people don't believe that? Because I'm with the community. And I actually believe what I teach. Because a lot of people
from experience.
Exactly. A lot of people do research, but that's because they do research on Blackness and everything else. Don't believe that we're not shit. So let's make that distinction. So a lot of professors, white professors and professors of color, believe in certain things. No, we research and build a career in certain things, but don't fundamentally believe it. So it's very easy for people like me and you and anybody else that is out here on these streets to be dismissed for their academic work and their research.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for Black people from Latin America to be published in these journals, which are very important for us in our careers, we have to go through these white gatekeepers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been denied so many times by these people. And I know I'm an excellent writer, but it's a gatekeeping. Mm-hmm. Because any of my topics is seen as too much.
Yeah.
Right? Calling out whiteness, calling out human rights. You know, if it's not around glorifying, and I don't think they glorify the war, but if it's not about reporting on the war and deaths and all this, but it's actually like Black women, we have it fucked in the region, and we have to have a really clear gender analysis to racism in the region. They don't want that. Mm-hmm. And this is where white Latinos have to step it up, because these are your people. You might not want to believe so, but these are your people. The girl, because I think she's a girl, that said, remember Evelyn, that we were laughing in the car because she was like, I will never call myself white. And when we looked at her picture, she had like green hair at the St. Patrick's Day parade.
And if you're watching,
because we're like, who dyes their hair for the St. Patrick's?
Why are these white people refusing to be white? And y'all need to, I say it again, y'all need to heal whiteness amongst yourselves and recognize that Black people have every right to call out white people wherever the fuck you from. Because I think that that's also the space too, that their white supremacist thinking doesn't even give them the opportunity to conceptualize that Black people would have something to complain about white people and whiteness, because they have been centered for so long. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's one of the really difficult things to acknowledge, that white people feel so upset by Black people who like themselves as Black people and do not want to actively become white people, that then they try to make you feel bad about being proud about who you are, but they are automatically proud about who they are. They're constantly, Black people have had to be defensive about Blackness and their Black bodies for the entirety of the world, right? Since we were stripped from our home spaces and enslaved, the goal has been to create spaces where Black people don't like Blackness. And so when Black people don't do the work also to be able to decolonize themselves from that kind of thinking, you got to go down to.
So Javier, our boy Javier wrote in, the one that doing all this great work at UT Austin with Afro-Latin Americans, Black Latin Americans in sports, using sports as an avenue in upward mobility, because those are the only spaces we're allowed to excel at. And he writes, the gatekeepers are racist. I was just denied by a top journal. I wrote I had been a victim by police brutality in Panama. The reviewers commented, that sounds like a personal journal entry and not an academic account.
That's exactly what it is, though. That's
exactly what it is.
Are not considered to be academic. And we need to be also very careful of not having that same, of not perpetuating those same beliefs, which I think that we don't always, because it's that the white Euro Latinos are also gatekeepers, but then I would also argue that sometimes it's really critical when Black people become the gatekeepers on behalf of white people in order to get into whiteness. And that is something that we invite you to unpack and be reflective on.
They become the overseers.
They do become the overseers.
A white person's a tag dog at this point. Really?
So, you know, I'm glad Javier, no, I'm not glad Javier wrote that, because it shouldn't have happened. Number one, we should not be gatekept by these white people that research us and do a lot of that. And not only do they research us, but they do so much fucking damage in our home countries and in the local communities. Let's keep that straight too. They do a lot of damage. So the book publications that they have is not worth it for the communities. Number one. Number two, Javier, I'm writing a book right now, and I have been told by several agents, not potential agents anymore, that my book is around Black Latina women and our experiences in the United States, right? So it covers different topics. I have been told countless times that it doesn't fit in with the African American crowd audience because it is Latino. And it doesn't fit in with the Latino audience because it's Black. right? Number one. But what does sell right now for Afro-Latinidad is fiction stories. And we see a lot of fiction writers, and I'm not mad at fiction. We all need some fiction in our lives. But it's fiction. So an agent blatantly told me that if I could fictionalize my interviews and create stories around them, then the book would be palatable.
Because we're not real.
Because we're not real. They don't want to hear our stories.
Javier's police brutality story isn't real. It should only live in his journal.
Exactly. It's a blog. Why didn't they tell Javier that's more like a blog or a Facebook post?
Their dissertations are filled with anecdotes and personal stories and qualitative research.
You know what? Caña Negra should have a journal.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do. We can have a journal.
We'll publish you, Javier.
Online
publication. We'll publish you,
Javier.
It could be, and I'm serious too. I know you all are too, but I think
we that ass.
Yes, I think
we will do it too, because Black women get shit done. So we will get it done. Let's be very clear.
It's gonna happen. Like
it's gonna happen.
We're always on
radiocañanegra@gmail.com, and we'll have more information for you.
Our life philosophy is say less. Like that is that's what we do.
Because there will be and we will prioritize translation, because the other thing is their publications.
No, they're little
English.
They're little publications.
Little publications are all in English, which means that they extort and they come out and then they fuck up in more communities. And then the people that they interview can't even read them because they don't go back. A lot of folks don't go back. They stay with the little trolling fingers like Dash said in the air conditioner rooms and then teaching in big PowerPoint and they become the voice.
They're the experts. I just tweeted, normalize not having academics on panels, but rather everyday people whose entire lives and experiences are what the Academy's extractive research is based on.
Right.
How you parachuting for 2 days or 2 weeks, maybe even 2 months, let's say, to Colombia or Panama, Costa Rica, and now you're an expert on what exactly? You're an expert on what? I think it should be required if you are a white person. Actually, no, you shouldn't even be doing Black studies or Black anything. But if we're gonna do it, which I don't support, but you need to be living in the community that you're covering for at least 2 years continuously.
At minimum.
At minimum.
I'm not in a love relationship.
Not
in a what?
Love or romantic relationship.
They always have local significant others. Always.
And then that's the kind of stuff that creates a lot of discordia in the community because they come in with their little monies.
So it's a problem.
Create havoc.
Because you're like dinerito. You were thinking dinerito in your mind.
I'm thinking about the little dollar bills.
Dinerito, like.
Right? Y que no sé qué, no sé cuánto va a comprar la cena de hoy. You know, those kind of things, right?
That's
Which is power dynamic abuse.
Right.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah. It is, yeah.
It is abusive.
Yeah.
The power dynamic.
So we have some comments. Let's
see what they got.
From the watch party
again. We want the meats.
All right, so we have a 7-year-old.
I really do want the meats because it's been like I haven't seen my husband. Our anniversary was yesterday.
Well, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary, Dad. And we have a 7-year-old that's watching us.
Hey, 7-year-old. Hey.
Yes, 7-year-old. Anayansi?
No, Anayansi's watching more interesting things because she hears me all day long.
Yes.
But her name is Amari. She wrote Black Lives Matter.
That's right, Amari.
That is right.
What?
All Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
We have Vivian Cortez. That she had 2 questions. One of the questions was, is this going to be recorded? Yes, it's being recorded. You can watch it later, and please share it. And please, please keep on listening to us.
Hi, Vivian.
Hey, Vivian. And then she says, yes, I was just going to say Black and brown people need to self-publish more. Absolutely. Let's get that together. Maybe we'll make a call. Maybe one of these calls can be about publishing one day.
Yeah.
And then Isanet said, yup. All right. Yep.
Woke food. Woke food.
Sandrea Sanford. Sandrea has been really active. She's saying whitewashing history, her story, and the present. Yes, that's what they do. We're doing that more and more at my school. I guess it's the Equity Something Committee are working together to rise up and demand change while the white allies group are recognizing mistakes and taking steps to change their pattern. Okay, so that's at a school. She works at a school.
That's a good look.
That's a good look. And then we have Maricruz.
Hey,
what up?
Our white, like, let's call it out, whiteness, white Puerto Rican.
White machacera.
White machacera.
Yes.
She said that los blancos latines escribiendo sobre negritud en América Latina son publicados por esas casas editoriales académicas. Yes, that white Latino academic writing around blackness are published by those academic editorials.
But that's exactly what we're talking about, right? That somebody else who is that's the priority, right? The prioritization of non-blackness, even when it comes to blackness, right? And that's important to note. That it's like, how y'all gonna be
violent? It's violent.
How you gonna be pro-black and anti-black at the same time? There's pro-blackness that is steeped in anti-blackness, right? Especially when we think about the fact that, like, the academy and things like that, where there's a certain way to show up as a non-white. There's a certain way, and that it's rooted, it's wrapped, it's Christmas bowl wrapped in anti-blackness, even while pretending to be pro-black.
Yeah. And Javier sat through a class. He dropped the class immediately. I think he like ran out the room. But it was a class on Afro-Latinidad.
There was fire.
Yeah, it was a class on Afro-Latinidad given by Josiane Arroyo at UT Austin. And she's a white woman. Like, I mean, the most I would say is mulata, right? If you Google her picture. And she's doing an Afro-Latinidad class, and she's saying, we Afro-Latinos. And Javier is sitting in there like, who is we? Did I walk into a French class? Like, we. She proceeded to then bash African-American women for at least half an hour, he told me. And people might think I'm messy for saying names, but I don't play when it comes to Black femmes. This is not a game for me. So you have her, you have Araujo at Howard teaching Afro-Latin history. And when I brought up to her that maybe we should use enslaved instead of slave, she goes on justifying. And I'm like, and this is why white people have no business telling my stories. Because by you calling me a slave, you're continuing that dehumanization process that my ancestors had to go through. And by proxy, you're talking about my body. You're not invested in this. You're not haunted by the archives. This doesn't affect you. When I was doing my docuseries, I was in a state of depression for almost 3 years because I was reading this shit. I was interviewing people. It was pain jumping out of the pages, pain in the interviews, pain all over, on top of just living my life as a Black woman, you know, just in general, the general abuse, right? the normal abuse. And to have that experience and then to go into a class where this white professor is saying, we Afro-Latinos, that is insulting. And that is violence to my personhood.
Correct. And to fight you on it, because they fight you.
Yes, they argue.
People argue about being Black. And I'm like,
that's why I say Black, because I feel like they still want to be able to like smooth it out and use Afro-Latinidad as like a buffer commentary, like a buffer phrase. But it's like, they won't say they Black yet though. They won't say Black. I'll be like, oh, Afro-Latino, so you Black? Oh no, I'm Afro-Latino. No, not Black, not Black. Afro-Latino. I said Afro-Latino. Like,
that's just...
It is a very important part of their identity.
You said Black, they disappeared. They're like,
to not be Black. Like, even when you go to these protests and you see like Latinos for Black lives, what the fuck is that? So are you suggesting that Latinos can't be Black?
No, they're not suggesting. They're saying that.
Right? So it's like, what do you?
When people tell me all the time,
in the pro shit, they fucked up. They done got me fucked up because now I'm trying to fight for you at the protest, and now I gotta fight you and white people because now I'm fucking mad, and I got a fucking mask on and it's hot, and my throat hurts because I've been screaming for 2 hours.
And nobody can see your lipstick.
Nobody can see my bomb ass lipstick, and now I have to be trying to correct motherfuckers on the go. Like I got time for that shit. So if you, and I think that these are the small things that everyday people can do and be committed to doing, to being able to like, to modernize and to be contemporary in their thought process and their thought pattern, right? So for example, if you hear like slaves, like they were enslaved people, blame the person that, blame the groups that did this work to them, right? There are like small things that we can continue to like look at to be able to at least say like, wow, we're centering who deserves to be centered here.
And
right?
It's justice.
It's justice and it's just right. And I think that that's part of the thing that hurts continuously, that particularly now, we have terminology in the last like 5 or 10 years that we haven't had in a very long time. And people know it, use it, and still refuse to do right by it.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. That's our point again regarding the learning, right? I saw a post a while ago that said, how many times when people say like, oh, I'm just learning, or people of color sometimes, and white and Black people also like give people passes like they're just learning. This is new to them.
I'm still learning.
No. I'm like, this is fucking pre-K. How many times do you fail pre-K?
And also, are you using learning as a buffer, as an excuse to not actually do the right thing? It's like, oh, I cannot be racist. I have to read the 98th book about racism so that I can be convinced. Like, no, you're making a choice because we are in choice. The same way that you can choose to be racist, you can at a certain point choose to not be racist. And you don't have to keep trying to make people who have already been harmed continuously continue to have to be complicit in their harm, because it harms me to have to convince you that you don't have to be racist. That is perpetual harm that people need to do. And I think that it's you know, and I always go back to like, because I can't even begin to censor white people. If you white, you just like, I can't.
But I don't want to hear your voice if you white. I don't want to even see your face.
Be like this.
I don't want you on my screen. I'm done with white people. The lack of ganas that I have to view a white person, to listen to them, to read to them, to encounter them, to interact with them, to engage with them for the rest of my natural life and my afterlife, I want nothing to do with them. This is
from a position of power.
Right.
From a position of power. I feel the same way from a position of power where they're not there. Like if you're there and you're doing that work with your people, good. I can roll with you.
Sure. Absolutely.
Right? And I can have these conversations with you without feeling any kind of funny way. Because then after a while, I don't have to have these conversations with Dash and with Evelyn. Why? Because we're Black. We have an understanding.
And we got other shit to talk about.
We have other shit to talk about.
Like, and the fact that that's why I'm saying that white people need to like reclaim whiteness and do whatever the fuck y'all need to do to like yourselves. Because all of this shit, when white people are accepting of me of myself as a white person, and this is the shit that I need to work on, then I can fuck with you.
Yeah.
If you out here trying to deny whiteness, right? I mean, moderately, but you know what I'm saying? But
that's fine for you, but not me.
Yeah. No, that I feel that way, which is why I fuck with Mari Cruz, because she's like, I'm white, and what?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, you're right.
And holding people accountable. There has to be
people accountable.
Exactly. For me, that link has to be there.
You know what I mean? But like, if you out here talking about no, I'm cool, Black Lives Matter, I'm not white, but all I see is a white person. Now you're insulting me. Now you're fucking insulting my intelligence, and that's what's constantly happening. Is this, and it's like, no.
So Flor Montenegro just shared something. It's really long on the screen.
What up, Flor?
So it says, let's get into how my Black Dominican father shared with me 2 days ago. That his paternal grandfather was Haitian, but didn't live there. Followed by a proud tone of his maternal grandmother being a white Española de ojos azules, and I quickly called him out on the change in his tone when expressing these two lineages, and how he internalizes inferiority and rejects his blackness. I'm 28 years old, hearing it from him. Just hearing it from him. But I always felt it because our family is only 40 minutes away from the border. So that's like a painful thing as well, right? To be denied access to who you are. So Flo and my, your
own history.
So Flo, I'm holding that, and we're thinking about that and thinking about you, because being denied ancestry and heritage is also, and it's very anti-Black. But I think Flo can recognize the anti-Blackness because she called it out. They called it out immediately.
And also that I think that there's also there's multiple levels of pain, right? Just being denied your history, and then being denied your history by your father, right? What that does to your relationship, and particularly when you present as a Black person, right? So the idea that your parent can be so joyful about their parent not looking like you makes you kind of question like where you stand, right? Because that's a very important thing. Like I know when I was younger, one of the things that used to hurt was when people would say like, ay, esta muchacha tan linda, con la piel clara, or whatever, and like really like malign my features, and it really caused me harm, right? It caused me harm. And you know what? I think there's a new comment here that Sandy says, it's even worse for those of us that are half Dominican, half Haitian, and not fitting in either country. And I'm gonna say this, I think that Dominican Haitian politics are so complicated, I try to say very little about it. Because I have beliefs, and I'm still in a progress of learning. But I certainly would love to hear some of you kind of join us and be able to tell us what it is what your experience is. Because I think Sandy makes a really important point about potentially not fitting in to either country. And I'd love to hear if you want to share more about that particular experience.
And I mean, they bring up a good point about, it just makes me think of stateless Haitians, or rather stateless Dominicans that are in DR, that maybe, because it may be possible they had Haitian family or Haitian ancestry, a lot of them, but some are just born on the border, for example, and so they're living in a stateless position and not being a citizen of anywhere. And so that brings up a lot with citizenship, with space and race, and I mean it's multi-layered here. And I commented this earlier that I know the history and a lot of it, but I'm not gonna say I'm an expert in Dominican Haitian relations. Yeah. I'm not gonna speak on it. I can share a couple things and themes that I've noticed, but I'm not Dominican or Haitian. It's not my place. That's not my lane. And I think it's important for people to understand that sometimes, like, you don't always have to have the mic. You don't have to always speak. You don't always have to accept that panel. Like, there was a group that they wanted to do a Juneteenth talk, and they asked me, and I said, no. I know Juneteenth, I don't know what that is. I mean, I know of it, right? But that wasn't my norm. I didn't grow up with that. Javier, my business partner, and Ace Boone, he's from Texas. Juneteenth is his middle name. And he, and Javier is really conscious and intentional. He's like, you sure you don't want to do the panel? I'm like, what the hell I got to say about it? Go talk your talk, go talk your reality and lived experiences, because it's not
exactly. And that's what you're talking about is staying in your lane. Mm-hmm. Staying in your lane and knowing what your lane is. When I was living in Atlanta, I got offered a position at Morehouse College. One, it's a historically Black university for men. But there's a lot of women and femmes working there. So I didn't think too much about that. But then the class that they were going to offer me was African American history. I know African American history, sure, but how am I going to be a professor teaching in a historically Black university and college? That would be outrageous and politically funky. And I said funky. Right? foul for me to do that. Foul. I'm not African American. And I immediately said no. And I remember some of my family members were like, that's crazy. Nah, you could be teaching. Yeah, I wanted to teach. I really wanted to teach at a university. But no.
Not like this.
Not like this. Not stepping over other people in Atlanta.
And we can say
in Atlanta.
But that is also part of the elements of whiteness, right? The individualism that speaks to like I can, right? Whereas I think that collectivism, which is like almost everybody else, it's this idea that like I may not know somebody who can do it, but let me help you rock with somebody who can. Mm-hmm. That's a really important, piece. That it's like white people like I got the chance, I'm going in.
Like all of these Afro-Latinidad panels that have been desperately.
I want to give my finger so badly because I'm sick and tired of those Afro-Latino panels that one invite us at the last minute, and we're not doing that. Mm-hmm. We're not crumbs on top of the sundae. Mm-hmm. No, mm-mm. Because the crumbs or the peanuts or the nuts, they're black and they're brown, and the white ice cream. No,
the sprinkles, the sprinkles.
We're not almond, crushed almonds.
Yeah, we're not that.
The chocolate syrup.
We're not that.
These are panels filled with Black men and white women, racially ambiguous people, Afro-Latinos that are Afro-Latinos but not Black, Afro-Latinos that were established in 2018, right. And actual Black people who have been Black since birth are right there.
Watching them talk about their Black experience and being like, wait, what? You're Black. Trump has been president longer than you've been Black. How? How are you better qualified to talk about your fucking Black experience more than
Confederacy lasted longer than your Blackness?
No, there was a panel, there was a regional panel that we all were like, F that. It was called.
It was a bunch of them. Which one?
Right. But this one was like the future of Latin America. The future is something, but it was around like what's next after COVID for Black Latin America. It was three Black men from the region and a white woman.
And what did she say exactly?
I didn't go.
We didn't watch that shit.
We didn't watch it. What is a white woman going to talk about my future? Or I don't live in the region right now. But what is this white woman going to speak about women in my family in the region?
That she's not going to hire a Black maid. Maybe? I don't know. The fuck? It's insulting.
Yeah, it is insulting. And that's the bottom line, that it is insulting and that people don't seem to have an issue with people being insulted. With Black people being insulted, with Black people being routinely excluded from the narrative, and that people get to be grandfathered into Blackness like it's just some sort of, like the club is free before midnight.
And the crab legs.
No, but they came at 12:01. That's the thing. They came at 12:01. We've been here since time.
Exactly.
And they get in.
And they get in. $30 cover fee.
And they get in.
They're not on the list.
So I have a story that happened.
Oh shit, story time. Wait, hold on. I have a thing. Hold on, wait.
I have a story. So this is a national organization.
Hold on, wait. I gotta have an intro or something.
You been having my wedding, Ev.
And then after my story, I think they will link into Cynthia Araceli's comment, which was, that is what I'm noticing with a lot of my Puerto Rican friends and family. This claim on Afro-Latino label, and it makes me uncomfortable because I would not say they can relate to the Black experience. How can I approach brown Latino Latinx that claim Afro-Latinx, right? So we'll get into that in a second. So this is the story. National organization. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to a friend. that is telling me that after they murdered George Floyd, this organization gave not the day after, but the day after, because of the uproar and everything that was going on, this organization gave all the Black staff a day off, a paid day off, right? And they sent out a memo saying, the reasons why they had the equity and diversity officer had taken this stand to give Black people a day off. Guess who was the only group to complain? The Latino folk that are not Black.
The Euro Latinos.
It wasn't only the Euro Latinos. Well, Euro Latinos is anything that's descendant of white. Sure. Yes.
Yes, we can put them in that bucket. They put themselves in AfroLatin. We can put them in that.
So, and then they went to a Black person, a Black Latina woman, that is cool with them because she hangs with them, but then she also hangs with mostly of the African American and African folk in the organization. And they went to her saying, "You don't think this is fucked up?" And she said, "No, I get a day off. Lack of politics, right? But no, I get a day off." She wasn't, she's not on the ground organizing, active, whatever, but she's a Black woman. So we don't know what she's going through, right? They put in a formal complaint to HR.
About her?
No.
Oh.
About why they didn't get a day off when all these kids were jailed in cages on the border, when DACA happened a few months ago, so they didn't get it. And that Latino men and women get killed as well. But they don't get days off. So there was a yelling match between the Black Latina woman and the other Latino folks because she was being accused of being like a traitor, a Latino traitor. Because she was like, "No, I'm not participating in this thing that you all are doing." So that's the juice, right? Because when folks are like, "Oh no, I'm Afro-Latino, I'm a person of color," and they're from Latin America, this is what anti-Blackness concretely looks like. And that's within a nonprofit organization around social justice. So that's
in the comments. What y'all think about this in the comment? Write in, answer. What are we thinking in the comments about this situation? Right? Cynthia says, "Oh my God, that argument makes me so upset because they didn't care until this." Wait, hold on. Let me. What is this thing?
Javier says, "There they go, hijos de la raza cósmica." Sandrea says, "Evelyn, I need that button."
Just like they're always jumping when we are doing something, and I'm talking about Black people globally, just Black people, and whatever ethnicity, whatever nationality, just Black people. They always gotta jump on it to be like, and the Latinos, and the Latinos,
sorry,
and the Latinos. Like Gina Rodriguez when she said, "Where's our Latino Panther?" Girl, fuck you. Okay, that's my first thought. Because why didn't you say that when you had all the 50 billion other white Marvel superheroes? Why you didn't say it then? We get one movie and you want to insert your anti-Black self into our conversation? Like we didn't even you don't even go here.
Like the whole conversation in and of itself. Like, if we have like another call out number 2, because we definitely have one on the podcast, right? Like people to be called out. But she is, there's a couple of people.
Because and also when they have their Latino superhero, it's all white Latinos anyway. Because they have the Chicano, which if you look at the cast, it ain't no Black people there. So who are you really speaking to and for and about? You just want you want everything but Black. Just say that and go, girl.
Right. Right.
Exactly. And then in regard to the superhero, I remember after Black Panther, some Latino folks were complaining around, oh, we need a superhero too. But I was like, my son loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Right. Miles Morales is bomb.
Miles Morales.
Right? Who's we? Who is this we? You
exactly. And I was like, I'm like, did you not see all over Facebook different countries in Latin America dressing up to go and see
Panama, Brazil, Puerto Rico.
Masses of people dressed in African attire to go to the premiere of this movie.
Height. Peru. Height.
And still, now this is like the universal.
Right? When Miss Universe, Miss South Africa, all my Black Latinas, height. And at the same time had to endure the racist comments of their compañeros de whatever country, right? They're geeked because they finally see a Black woman that looks like them.
Mm-hmm.
The two white Latinas the Latinos will be like, oh, well, you're Latina. No, I'm hyped because it was a Black woman that won. Because it's two white Latinas that no tiene nada que ver conmigo. Those white women have nothing to do with me. That Black woman has everything to do with me.
Correct.
And we hype, we geek, we like, yeah, and she had natural hair, short cut, looking cute.
Looking fly.
We had to endure these white Mexicans on TV saying, oh, well, it's a concourse of beauty, not intelligence. And she beautiful too. You sit here raggedy with all this surgery and you still ugly. So what is that saying to me?
Why? You ain't got no alibi because you ugly. Hey.
Smart. So what are you even saying? The comments, the gorilla, I don't even want to repeat it. I'm not going to repeat it. But all of these obscenities launch at this Black woman and you're going to tell me Latinos? What Latinos? What are you talking about? Who is we?
That's the thing. The we is what kills me.
Right.
Because whenever we've done like interviews, right, for these conglomerates, CNN, Telemundo, all those, right?
Telemundo that's just now interviewing me after 10 years of my work being out. Just now.
And let's talk about that in a second too. That's important.
It's an awakening. I'm awakening for you?
Exactly.
You've been saying this.
Oh no, and that's the thing. They tell me, and I'm like, I'm a Black woman. No, I'm a Black woman. No, I'm a Black woman. They're like, I feel like Latinos, we have to have these conversations within the Latino community. We have to start addressing race. I'm like, no, I'm a Black woman.
And who hasn't been? What you mean we?
Yeah,
exactly. What do you mean we?
Start
from the beginning of time. From when
I remember this reporter was like, "You agree with me, right?" I said, "No, I don't agree with you." And she's like, "Oh, you don't think we should start having these conversations?" I said, "We've been having these conversations. We have. You all have not been listening. You all have not been reading the newspapers. You all have not been like talking to your neighbors. You all have not been talking to la gente en las tiendas. You all have not been taking public transportation. You all have not been doing any of this. So now you're like, no. I used to pay my quarter to take the bus every day. I know that what we need to do.
Like, and the fact that more and more Black Latin Americans, they feel empowered and seen to now speak up more. Not now that it's starting, but even more so, because they can point to the U.S. and be like, "You see what's happening there? You doing the same thing." And this happened with a Panamanian artist, musician, and he went and complained because he was racially profiled at the shit show Machetazo, the supermarket in Panama.
That has nothing to do with us as macheteras.
Yeah, no affiliation, okay? No affiliation. But he was profiled, he didn't like it. The people, and he's famous in Panama, but all they saw was a Black man, right? And I don't say it that I believe that it's only a Black man, but that's what they are seeing. They're seeing a problem. They're seeing a threat. They're seeing an issue, a problem that needs to be handled and disrespected and discarded. And so he went and complained, and he escalated it. And he used George Floyd as a reference point. He used George Floyd as a reference, and they're like, "Oh, well, no, it's not that. Maybe it was how you were dressed. Maybe it was how you would." All of these things are racialized, okay? All of these things are racialized. Maleante, when people say maleante in Panama, they're not visualizing a white person. Stop lying. You're going to lie in my face right now? And so a lot of these Afro-Latin Americans, Black Latin Americans are using the U.S., the revolution of 2020, to amplify their own voices, which I think is great on one hand, but it's sad on the other.
Yes.
Why does it take things to happen outside of my own country for you to listen to me? And I've been saying that, we've been saying this shit for the longest. And actually, some of these people actually weren't speaking up about it until now. Because they feel a support, they see that the world is looking, so they're like, okay, let me say my piece. Let me say what I need to say. And so they're talking about awakening. Telemundo said this awakening. I'm like, what awakening?
Right.
Exactly.
The idea that they position it as awakening is offensive, right? That all of a sudden it's like it's awakening when y'all saw it, but when I was feeling it, it wasn't an awakening.
It's Columbusing.
So it is very much, and that's a problem. But I did want to shout out Sandy for the comment about who the hell is we. Certainly not people with dark skin. We haven't been feeling it. And just for you, sis, because you deserve that, right? So
Sandy is on fire tonight.
Sandy is like, listen, thank you, Sandy. Shout out to you. There's so much anti-Blackness in Latin America that the governments are working against the Afro-Latino movements that have been going on for a while now. Is that especially like example of Chile, right? But really, it's not just Chile; it's everywhere, right? Like so many different places. So,
like, for example, they're taking off the beso de negra, Nestle. It's a chocolate with a Black woman.
I'm gonna post it. I'm gonna share the screen.
Kiss of the Black woman. They're taking it off. They're taking off the Black woman character off the Limpido bleach.
Right.
Her name was Blanquita. They named this Black woman Blanquita, again mocking her and alluding to her being her white employer. And so they're taking off this imagery, as well as the negrita in Mazamora, which is a dessert in Peru. Mm-hmm. And so you have all of these people like, what? Why are you taking it off? The same as Aunt Jemima.
Yeah.
They're removing the Aunt Jemima image. And so all these Latin American brands are rushing to remove those images, because the US is doing it, right? The cool kids are doing it, so we'll do it too. Why didn't you do that 10 years before when we said it was a problem? You had to wait till Aunt Jemima got off the syrup bottle. And then I saw Black people defending, right? Because it's always one tap dancing Negro. They're all caps. I'm Black and I like it. Okay, print it. Take a picture. Hang it on your wall. And they take it off.
It's off. It's got to go.
That's it. And Javier said this. He said his mind is blown when Black people say, we don't like this, and then y'all say, but. We said we don't want this. Point blank with the period. That's it. You don't have to say nothing else. It's action after this. It's action. I don't want to hear, well, no. The negra said that she didn't like that image of negra. So take it down. And so it's just interesting because the statements that Ali Corb and Nestle gave about removing these Black the Black hypersexualization and servitude of Black women, their statements were spitting actually. Like they were like, we're cognizant and conscious of the world that we're trying to build. It was inappropriate, no sé qué. All of these really great points. And I'm like, so then you had the capacity to identify that 20 years ago when people had a campaign against it, 10 years ago when we did a petition, 5 years ago when we told you to remove it and you refused. And that's an even bigger insult because y'all are saying plainly in our faces, like all these brands that are like, oh, well, we're going to remove these white voices, white characters from Black characters. We're going to do this. The hamburger is going to be Black. They're going to rename the master bedroom. And it's like, well, we're going to donate 20 million to this. We're going to donate $1 billion to this. And it's like, y'all could have did that this whole time and you didn't do it.
Y'all see this foolishness right here? Las mujeres más poderosas del Valle del Cauca.
In Colombia.
Yeah.
Using Black women as accessories.
This is, you know what, I can't see. So I was like, oh my goodness, wait, look at the Black women.
No, it's horrible.
This is a couple years back and they are so white. Like it's tan blanca. Like you gotta be that white. Like.
No, they're not white. They're white passing.
They're white passing.
Right. They're white.
The women at the back, they're Black.
And so just recognizing that's where we started today. You know what? So if anybody has joined us in the last half hour where we have not been talking about it, we started this conversation talking about the uproar or the response that we received to a post on Facebook and Instagram about not being white passing, but being white. Yeah. So if you have any comments to share.
Also, the fact white passing does not exist in the Spanish language. So like, that's first. That's always my point. That's always where I start. How do you say it in Spanish? How do you say white passing in Spanish? Isn't it just blanco?
Somebody actually literally translated and said, pasando de blanco.
And who says that?
A white person. And I was just like, white man?
But there was one person who works as a translator. Yes, and they said that there's no way to translate it. Like they've been at conferences or panels where they said, and he's like, well, they said that they don't know how to translate it. They're like, there's no way to translate that to Spanish, because then it's a whole context that you have to go into, because as Javier, who is from Texas, Panamanian Texan.
All right, Javier Juneteenth Wallace.
Shout out, yeah. He said, hold on, because his quote was too good. And he refuses to tweet. I'm like, get on Twitter. We need more of these. He's like, Twitter moved too fast for me.
Same.
Okay. That's how he said it, because he's from Texas. But he was like, I'm done with the white Latinx and white passing shit. You don't have to harp on passing. People who were able to pass did it as a strategy to enter white society. That shit was deadly if they were found out. We'll never know how many people actually passed, because that was the point. You're not supposed to know. It kills me how they use that shit out of context. Because that is in the U.S. context of passing. People passing as white to enter into society, into white society to get these benefits. That was not the thing in Latin America. They did have white certificates, but that's a whole nother context. It's not the same thing. Exactly. Yes, this is my vendetta. I'm taking y'all down. I mean, negra. They made their page private because I was tagging them too much.
No, but you know, let's be clear. Look at the lips. I mean, negra is an ice cream shop, right?
In Panama.
In a very rich part of Panama.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is a black woman that works there, or a black person that works there.
Or just for the photo shoot.
For the photo shoot, but the t-shirt says Bésame. So there's a lot of things there for me in regards
the red lips,
to sexual harassment, to consent, to all those things, and how black women or black people are just used and abused.
And in the shop, they have a few things. They have a portrait or picture, a mural that says Bésame ahora and mañana who knows, alluding to, you know, we're hypersexual. Kiss me now and tomorrow who knows, because you're going to take it there with the negra, right? Then there's another one on the cup that said, algunos pecados vale la pena. Some sins are worth it, because we're sins, right? We're the mujeres de la noche. We're the mistresses. We're the unhonorable women, right? We're the negras that you cheat on your white honorable wife with, or the mulatas that you cheat on your honorable white wife, right? And it's just this framing that I'm like, can y'all be any more blatant about it? Like, can you be any more raggling? And I remember going and I see the white staff, and I said, why'd y'all pick that name? I went right in there. I'm like, why'd you pick this name? And they said, oh, solo un dicho. I'm like, I know it's a dicho. Right. It's not bad. I know what that is. Why did you pick this name? And I stood there. They couldn't even look me in the eye.
Of course not.
At the ice cream. And I was just standing there, like the Tamar Braxton gif, where like they couldn't look me in the eye. Because they know they fucked up and they don't care. And the thing is, a black woman helped them open that restaurant.
I was gonna say, there's always a black person.
They used their pawn to be like, look, Chris approved. So what are y'all complaining about?
Right. They always find a black person that is disconnected
to co-sign their shit.
Mm-hmm. So there's another comment, and we're going on 2 hours, folks. So I think we have like another 10 minutes.
It's just so much.
There's so much to talk about. Like,
right? So one of the comments from Bruja Luz online is the proximity to whiteness keeps him from throwing Black people under the bus.
Yeah,
the proximity to whiteness or the wanting access to that world.
It's a perception, really, because it's not quite like that it's keeping them safe, but if people want to believe that. Like, I think that's the other side too, that it is a desire to believe that the proximity to white
imagination of benefits.
But yeah, right. The imagination and the hope of benefits that historically have also not been proven. Right? And that's the other side.
I know I definitely grew up in that like extreme generation where we had to be well behaved, well dressed, well this, well the other, respectful, respectable, we all know that. And I really hope that the next generation, of folks, like I'm talking like 20 under at this point, that are Black are more audacious.
Yeah.
Right? In their communication and their tolerance. Because I hope so. I hope that it remains like that without being co-opted, because there's also a lot of like differences in regards to like instant gratification because of the society that we're living in, that I worry about that generation, yes, being audacious and all this, and then becoming righteous and then internalizing all these white things that we're trying to fight against.
Well, actually, Gen Z.
Pardon me?
I said Gen X. Gen Z. Gen Z ain't putting up with that shit. They're like, no, we're not doing this.
What generation is that?
Gen Z.
Yeah, Gen Z. What generation is that? Like what ages?
How old are they now?
Oh, I think it's I think like 20 something.
Like millennial. The younger one, the millennial.
Yeah, the younger
one. And then X millennial and then Z.
Yeah, so I'm millennial, and Sen, Evelyn's son is Z.
And I would say that, like, I think that 24 and under. Thank you, Cynthia. I would say that I think that there has to be a space, and Genevieve and I are like, we're close in age, so I think that there's also a space.
Estamos bien buenas.
Yes.
No, estamos. I keep on rubbing my chest because I'm sunburned from the thing. But when I was out, I was feeling good.
Ew, that's a different, yes, bitch, that's a different combo, but ew, I'm always here for that. But I think that it's really important to note that the people of our generation were raised that way, right? That was the belief. That's what we wanted to believe. Our parents wanted to believe that we could outstudy, out-earn, outwork people's beliefs about race, right? Respectability, right? Like there was, portate bien, keep your legs closed, do all this. So have a repressed sexuality. Don't tell nobody that whatever, right? Yeah. And I think that was the fundamental belief, because that's what the generation before us needed to believe in order to keep us going. And so I think that for a lot of my contemporaries, there's not only the frustration, but there's also a big sense of like, y'all mofos lied, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's a space where so many of us incurred astronomical amounts of debt, right? Trying to be educated, buying homes that we really didn't necessarily want in places that we didn't want, or we position our children to be harmed, right? Because we were also taught that our goals were to be more aligned with whiteness, to be a progressive Black person. And then all of a sudden you're just like, wait, that's a fail.
Yeah.
Right?
That was a fucking lie.
That's a lie. And so I feel like, for example, I can say that like my son goes to, speaking of like education, because I drank the juice, similar to what, Genevieve said, I'm educated in the same space. So it's like, I send my kid now to a private school because I'm like, oh, the schools locally are no good, right? Like I want him to have that. But then I also put him in a position or potentially where he's also harmed in some other ways, right? Because now you have these like racist white kids that are also part of the problem. And so like really being able to continuously put ourselves in positions to learn and unlearn in order to also decolonize our younger people so that they can be free. Like I think if you're a parent, if you want to become a parent, whether you're in postpartum, antepartum, pregnant, thinking about kids in 5 or 10 years, you really do need to think about what it takes. What does freedom look like for you, for Black people? And then every waking moment has to be spent trying to create that environment for yourself and for people that you love. Because like that is a critical part, because if not, we stand to perpetuate the very same things that we claim we want to be against, right? Sometimes, like we talked about earlier, we can be really anti-Black in our pro-Blackness.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right?
Oh, go ahead.
And so we want to be clear about what that looks like for us. Like when people talk about liberation, when they talk about freedom, when they talk about all of the terminology now, like what does that really look like for you? And what are you willing to do to obtain it?
Yeah. We not free till we all free.
Yes.
Is what Fannie Lou Hammond said. We not free till we all free. And I want to say two really quick things that have been on my heart like the past few weeks is that they just killed a Black Cuban man in Cuba. And my husband, who is Cuban, we were having real discussions because he saw the George Floyd video and he blew up my WhatsApp and he was like, I'm at the point of crying. How could they do that? How could they do that? He just kept saying, how could they do that? Right. And we've been having discussions on where we want to raise our kids. And he's like, look, I know you don't like Cuba because life is impossible there, but at least they don't kill us. They don't kill Black people. And they killed this Black guy in Hansel Hernandez and shot him in the back because he was stealing bus parts or from a paradero. And the thing is, people are like, oh, it wasn't racist because the cops are Black. No, it still is. It's still racist and anti-Black because the conditions of Cuba made it so that he had to steal these parts. Also, these police officers are trained to be suspicious of Black people and to be in their neighborhoods and surveilling them. So that's what we're talking about. So that's one thing that's been coming up about where we're going to raise our kids. Where is the safest? You know, it's this kind of like can't win for losing. You know, it's like, what are we going to do here? And then the other thing, what was brought up for me when you were talking about respectability politics and how we have to be 3 times as good, 3 times as prepared. Yeah. Was an interview that I had with Ana Lucia Mosquera. She's an Afro-Peruvian activist and professor, and she went to a majority white and mestizo school in Peru, and she said she was the smartest one, and I believe it. I know her. I've known her for almost 10 years. Very intelligent, very everything, right? And she said that didn't matter. They still called her Doña Pepa, and Doña Pepa is a chocolate bar in Peru. And they very easily identified her as a Black kid, you know, and she's light skin. Her hair is wavy, right? But they knew she was the Black one. She's the Black one, right? They call her Doña Pepa. They also call her Negrita Mazamorera, which is the Negrita brand that they're changing now. Mm-hmm. So these kids were weaponizing these innocent things. The chocolate, it's no big deal. What's the big deal? It's just it's a Black woman on a package. They taunted her with those names. She was humiliated in school with those names. And you're going to sit here and tell me, oh, why? I love chocolate. I'm not chocolate.
Oh, we're all one.
Yeah, I'm not chocolate to begin with. And so these people they're defending things because these experiences aren't their own. It's not their bodies that are being sites of violence. It's not their bodies that's being exotified. It's not their bodies that are targeted in the streets. It's not their bodies that are being commented on all the time when you step outside. When I step outside, I go directly into a car. I'm like, I'm not going to subject myself to that. And the thing is, not even I'm subjecting myself to it. That's what society is subjecting me to. It's, you know, getting dressed in the morning and knowing that the probability of a police gun will be in your face just because you're walking while Black, a probability that obscenities will be yelled at you from a car because you're wearing your hair how it grows out of your head. These are the realities that we're talking about. And this imagery is solidifying that stereotype in society. And these white people are defending their right to oppress. That's really all I hear from you.
That's all that is.
And at the same time, I'm not white.
Right.
I'm white passing.
I'm white passing because there were some comments. Shout out to Flora for acknowledging that we could go on about this for hours, right? Thank you. Right.
And we have the training. We have our trainings coming up. Don't forget about that.
Genevieve has been writing about it in our training. So thank you, Genevieve, for writing about it. Flora, I think there was a comment from Flora about her experience in Costa Rica.
Yes.
That came up? Yeah.
Yeah.
I was teaching English in Limon, Costa Rica while doing research last year through a government-funded project with a nonprofit. And within my first week, I went off on the project manager. 1, they speak English. English Creole is English. 2, the goal of the racist government is for them to speak North American English to be employable in their own country. 3, they weren't upholding their side of responsibilities with materials and funds to even make it to class and seeking them. I can't see the rest.
Yeah, I can't see the rest either.
But that's so it's like just really thinking about the infinite amount of ways in which also people have allowed North American concepts and beliefs to really like override even their own. And I think that that's also another space that we could certainly talk about in future things, just all the ways in which people move aside for U.S. acceptance and respectability, and the way that that has also continued to cause us harm. As always, we can be reached. So one of the things that we came up with, if you are just recently joining us, is that we are going to launch a Caña Negra journal. So look out for that in upcoming weeks. And we're going to start with an amazing piece by Javier Juneteenth Wallace. So super excited.
Juneteenth,
Javier Juneteenth Wallace. Right? un racataca de por ahí.
El mismo profe Javier. That's what they say in Panama. El mismo profe. Javier.
So super excited about that. Thank you so much to everybody that has joined us. As you can see, we get really heavily into it. And this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the conversation. Please feel free to write us at radiocañanegra@gmail.com.
Don't tell us to write us for nothing.
And we was mild today. We was mild.
Yeah. So, it was a G. This was G.
This is Tuesday night. But but definitely check on us. Send us a DM on Facebook. We are also on Instagram and Twitter. So we look.
This is our podcast.
And our podcast, which is on pretty much all the platforms. Cynthia,
and we have our trainings, our workshops coming up. We have one July 11th in Spanish, and then July 24th in English. And we've developed a 3-part plus training series on our relationship to dominant culture, our internalization of white pathology, familial circles, institutions, colorism, all of that terrible stuff. we got the workshops and the trainings and the coaching. And so shout us out, get us even to your universities, your centers, your college, your job, your workplace. We need to be all up in there. We need to be in there. We dismantling anti-Blackness. Let's go.
So we have some thank yous out there. We have a thank you from Cynthia Araceli that I want to thank you all for sharing that token on white passing, because that is literally what I have been using for years. Thank you. Struggling with my identity as a Mexican and Puerto Rican American. Great. Cynthia, explore your race. This is part of the work. Explore your race. It's our workshop too.
Right.
In the workshop, you'll get a lot of insights about about this and around questioning in a way that is, Evelyn said it really great the last time. Say in a way that's safe and appropriate for you in regards to like family dynamics and all that kind of stuff. So I highly encourage it. And then we have Sandy, who I feel like Sandy is like.
Wait, hold on. More fire. Hold on. Let me give y'all a little last minute.
Dylan. Let's go.
Sandy, this is exactly what I needed in my life today. Me too. It's been a hard day.
Listen, okay?
Just like the meme, why Black people the only people that say listen and then stop talking?
Yes. You know what else Black people do? We run away from the joke. When something is funny, you kind of start moving. You be like, Black people are the only ones that run away from the joke.
Or you abuse someone. I'm a hitter.
Oh my God. My mom is a hitter.
I've started to hit myself now.
No. I hit and run. Like I just hit on the run. Macheteras, Flor says, Macheteras, y'all give me life and comfort. Thank you for this open space. Much love to you, Flor.
Oh no, we lost you, Ash?
No, I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I guess it just, sorry.
Flor says, Macheteras, y'all give me life and comfort. Thank you for this open space. Yeah, I really enjoy this space, and I'm so excited about being able to collaborate and share so much with Dash and Genevieve. Like, we have the best time. Yeah. And so it is so much fun.
We're actual friends in real life. Like, it's not just Evelyn officiated my wedding. Like, hello.
And you know what? We need to like probably have like a big ass group chat so y'all could join. You know, just like a
I think it's time for us to have
on WhatsApp. So they, because you know that's a WhatsApp. So that we un WhatsAppeo. But don't be sending me like pictures of Jesus at 7 o'clock in the morning, like
with the glitter rose.
The glitter rose. God loves Dios te quiere, mija. Pórtate bien.
So, before we say goodbye, I have one picture to share because this is, for folks that thought that they needed this, you need to see this picture. Just because it's our future. Just a second. How do I share a screen? I've been sharing it all night. And now
I know. I was like, wait, what? You tech. You
IT. No, for real, you are IT though.
Oh.
So that's the future machetera right there.
Baby macheteras of the future.
With the red lipstick. Oh my God, the red lipstick.
Learn them young. Learn them young. If it ain't red, it ain't right. Learn them young.
I love my little buddy. And
not only are we inspiring people on Facebook, but this is our way of life.
It's an open, like come to the table. We fiercely defend Blackness, but we also enjoy one another. We all we got, This is we does this. If somebody needs to be dragged, hit us up.
Isanet says in Anayansi we trust. Yes.
Right?
That's a t-shirt. Like that's merch right there.
Anayansi we trust. Anayansi's face. She already has the OG t-shirt and now she can have like
Anayansi has her own t-shirt, her own book, and she only 7.
She's in her own book, silly. Because
Gibran has his own book. Yes, he does.
Gibran, yeah, they both have. Actually, yeah, they co-wrote that book.
See?
So I think next show we should start like really. We didn't talk about Negro, the documentary. We didn't talk about prom king. We didn't talk about Afro resistance. We didn't talk about the books that we're writing and the project for Latino travel. So I think that the next show we could do but the next like gathering that we have, and we should call these like machete gatherings, whatever it is, caña negra, whatever we call it. I think we should share all the stuff that Black Latino folks have done, so that we can start supporting each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you have something that you want to kind of have highlighted, give us an email, because that way we can actually give you like a time and just have like a rolling set of guests that are doing some things. So tell us what you're doing. Tell us what your skills are, because that's how we also begin to support each other in community. Like my point always is directed to Black people first.
And this is how we divest from the white power system, the white power structure. We build our own autonomous shit, and this is how we do it.
Yep.
All right, folks. So Evelyn, take us out with the sound.
You know what? I was thinking that we need an outro. Speaking of Black coins and Black talent, if any of y'all know somebody who can make us some music or some beats or something,
an intro and outro,
then we will be able to like support them in that way. Yes. Bra, bra, bra.
Oh, my back.
Oh. Oh shit! Wait, see? That's why she's a millennial. If I do that, me quedo ahí en el piso.
Yeah, but I'm not Gen Z. I have to remember that for myself.
I'll be like,
no, my back actually really hurt when I did that little vocal. Oh my God, it's a good. Maybe that could replace yoga tomorrow morning.
But wait a minute. That's what happens when we've been in quarantine for too long. We should have a Caña Negra party.
The July 25th. Are we doing the July 25th?
We are.
That's Black Women's Day.
We don't even got no music. Like, you don't think what's gonna happen when we have music?
Evelyn is gonna happen. The twerking.
Right. You know, I twerk to Mr. Softy. I don't need much. So you know what? We're gonna get this ass shaking commencing.
Yes,
Mr. Softy.
I don't discriminate.
Ma'am, this is an ice cream parlor.
All right, folks. Have a good night.
Reggae en español beat. Boom.
That's what it means.
And on that note,
all right, yeah.
Love y'all.
Thank you so much for watching and sharing some time with us.
Invite your friends. If you have problems with your family and this topic, invite them. We can deal with them.
Bring them there. See you.
Right. You know what? We gotta have like an ask. So if you have a specific issue that you want to also like kind of have us unpack, email us the situation and then we'll unpack it on a future live. So that way you can actually like have content and we can practice how
I've always wanted to do that. That's like, this is like a dream come true. I've always wanted to be like, dear Genevieve or dear Caña Negra.
Yeah.
Dear Genevieve. Entitle it Dear Genevieve.
Yeah, Dear Genevieve.
Oh my God, I've always, since I was small, and you know, on the newspapers, they used to have a section. It was mostly relationship. I used to sit down with my grandmother and read it to my grandmother.
Oh.
I was probably like 9 or 10. It used to come out in Estrella de Panama.
Yeah.
The section. I used to sit down. My grandmother used to sew. It was a seamstress. I used to sit down right next to her, this big, huge wooden chair, reading it. And my grandmother would be like, "Stupid people, just stupid."
That's the Dear Genevieve section there.
Dear Genevieve, and we'll make time for that.
But we'll collaborate on it. I just need one letter that says Dear Genevieve. I don't need all of them.
I will say that Genevieve is super wise, and she'll be able to talk to you about raising liberated children, you know, contemporary relationships, romantic, work-wise, international rights. So you name it.
But I won't be the only one tackling all this crazy.
I will preface whatever it is that I say in being able to say that I'm the queen. I consider myself to be the queen of fuckery. If you want jokes and like you want like a real like hood response, I am your person. And I say
what is the letter that Steve Harvey does?
Strawberry
letter?
That's only relationships, right?
I don't know who they all do it, don't they? What's the other dude?
Or maybe it's Tom Joyner.
I think it's Tom Joyner.
It's gonna be Dear Genevieve, querida Genevieve. Querida.
Okay.
We gotta go.
Are talking like delirious.
We run from the joke, kid each other.
Will get kind of sketchy for our listeners. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Let's put what we ahead. Good night. I love you.
1, 2, 3. Bye.
Bye.
Running from the joke.